Can everyone see my screen? It says recording, Electric Coin Co.
Yes.
Cool, awesome. So let's get this kicked off and started. Welcome to the Arborist call. Let me just get this moving. Awesome. So welcome to the Zcash Arborist call for November 17th, 2022. These calls are standard calls that we host every 2 weeks so we can discuss the various things that are being developed on the protocol from the various teams building on it. As you can see, Stephen is not with us today. He's obviously left his post at Electric Coin Co. as Zuko announced on Twitter a few days ago. So I am subbing in for him and Nate is traveling back to his home base from some work travel. So I'm filling in for both of them today. See that Deirdre just raised her hand. And as I got this the presentation thing here, so I'm trying to just navigate all this, first time managing Zoom as well. So bear with me as I get through this. Sorry, go back. So the agenda for today is we're going to do the welcome, the meeting, and the intro. I do want to state that we're looking for community members to host these calls going forward. So this is a conversation I had with Nate internally. If there's anyone that you'd recommend from the community that would be good for taking on hosting these calls and filling this MC role, please recommend them. If there's someone on this call today that would like to participate in that capacity, please let me know. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Ian Sagstetter, or you can find me on Discord as Janus. And yeah, just shoot me a message and we can coordinate that. The first bit of agenda items we're going to go through after that is going through the Zebra updates, research and implementation status updates from Nate if he is on the call. I don't know if I see him here. Then we'll go to ECC core updates and then some discussions and audience comments to finish up. So to kick it off here. Oh, and as I mentioned earlier, Arborist calls are bi-weekly calls where Zcash protocol contributors can meet to discuss the various upgrade timelines and processes, R&D efforts, and design and implementation of new protocol features. And they also discuss the blockers and unresolved issues regarding all these topics. So the purpose is to make core Zcash protocol development accessible to a wider set of participants. So transparency for the community at large, which is why we post these things on the website and on social media and make it public for everyone to join. And anybody interested in learning about the Zcash protocol development can register. If you have an in-depth agenda item to add to future Zcash Arborist calls, please feel free to reach out to Nate at electriccoin.co and request a presentation slot for a different for a future call. So there are other ways to also get involved in Zcash, the Zcash community grants programs, which have a few different RFPs open for non-technical projects and also further technical projects. So if you want to get involved and potentially submit a grant to the grants committee, you can do that at their website, zcashcommunitygrants.org. ECC and Filecoin are also doing a grants program specific to furthering projects that are benefiting both the Filecoin and the Zcash ecosystems. They have a list of 4 different projects that they would like to see be built. So if you are interested in developing within those 2 ecosystems, you could also review the grant proposals or requests for proposals there. And also you can join the Zcash R&D Discord to talk the various things about current protocol development. So to kick it off for the updates, going to hand it off to someone from the Zcash Foundation to talk Zebra. So I'll pause here and
Hi, can you hear me?
Can hear. Thanks. Yep.
Cool. This is not a Zoom meeting. It's some sort of webinar. I don't have the option to present, but I can talk. I can't turn on my camera. Yeah, so. Okay, for Zebra, we've mostly been working on more support for our get block template RPCs and our send block template or submit block RPC methods so that miners can, get a get block template that's more populated with more data. That is getting filled out continuously. And we merged in submit block so that if you've done something with that template and filled it with some transactions, you can submit it to Zebra and it will go through the block validation checks that every block goes through to see if it fits on the blockchain as a valid consensus compatible block. And then we've also been doing a bunch of CI stuff with our CI infrastructure. We use Google Cloud to do a lot of long running integration tests with like fully cached Light Wallet D servers, things like that. And we've just been pushing Google Cloud to the limit, just spinning up VMs and containers and spinning them down. And we're trying to make sure that the latency and connections via SSH don't get in the way of our CI or fail for the wrong reasons. So we've been doing some work to try and squash all of these sort of little bugs from us pushing Google Cloud pretty far. But yeah, a lot of API work, RPC work to get ZebraD to a even more useful place for people who are mining. So that's continuing to work. We have a couple people out on break recently, so it's a little bit quiet, but that's a lot of Zebra. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, if there are any questions, because of the format that we're currently in, if you want to raise your hand, I can give you speaking permissions. Or if anyone wants to just be able to speak during the duration of this call, feel free to raise your hand. I can provide speaking permissions now.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll move on here. And then let's get back into this. And then I don't believe Nate is currently on the call. Nate, are you here to discuss the research and implementation updates? If not, does anyone from the ECC team want to take a stab at this?
Yes. Can you allow video for me?
I think I've made you a panelist, so I think you should be able to.
No, it's giving me an error. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Let's stop my share. And then let's try this now. Okay. Can you try it now? See if that works.
No, I'll just speak. Okay, so the status update for Zcashd and the Android and iOS SDKs is, let's see. So we have cut some releases of the Zcash Rust crates that include support for zip 317, which is proportional fees. That support is currently disabled, so it's going to be enabled in a point release afterwards, and that allows people to upgrade to this version of the SDK, and then choose when they want to enable the fees. It would have been more complicated to. Well, we were asked not to make it a Boolean parameter.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure it's going to be configurable in the next update of the SDKs. I think it was just that because the current mobile SDK releases, they already have quite a large chunk of changes that need to happen in a UX level, and there are some other things that in the rest of the SDKs that need to be done in terms of like fee preview and so on, that need to be made consistent with that. So I think that was the rationale for that. But in any case, the core point there is that the mobile SDK release that's coming out won't do zip 317, but the one after that will.
Okay.
And Strad, what other changes were in the release that's coming out now?
So a lot of changes. You will need to look over the release notes for those. But commensurate with the size of the changes to the Zcash client backend and Zcash client Rust crates, SQLite crates, which also that was the primary things there. The biggest thing is essentially unified address support. So which was sort of necessary in part because it was already in flight, and then also necessary in part because we just had to get the core issue that was blocking performance improvements was getting the mobile SDKs onto the same like revision and versions of things as the core Rust crates themselves were. So that has been solved, and they're all now sort of in sync. And so yeah, the biggest user-facing change will be UAs. They will only be transparent and sapling UAs to begin with. But the underlying database and spending key logic and all those bits does support Orchard. It's just not exposed at the front level. So in a future release, when Orchard is added into the SDKs, then the UAs will just roll, and you will then have a new UA that has transparent sapling orchard.
Yeah. So basically, we want people to adapt to any API changes in this release, and then they'll be ready for Orchard support and for ZIP 317, and eventually for DagSync in future releases.
Yeah, because the biggest the user-facing changes in this release also does like basically most and not all of the groundwork for DagSync that I think is necessary. So while there is obviously a lot of internal work still to do for those synchronization changes, the changes that users of the SDK will have to deal with should be much less, I think, because of the way that the mobile SDKs are built with a synchronizer and things. The synchronizer is the one that's handling that. So getting past this point should mean that the future ones that have the performance improvements should be much easier to migrate to. Fingers crossed.
Yep. So as Strauss said, we've started implementation work for DagSync. Strauss is probably a better place to talk about that. We're looking at shorter term mitigations for the sandblasting that we can apply to the mobile SDKs.
Yeah, mostly I think that's in terms of like most of the things that you could do there are basically components of DagSync anyway. There are some things you can maybe separate out and do first, which is, we're trying to see if we can front load those. But of course, there's how much work do you spend doing that and writing parallel systems to do that versus just writing the same thing that DagSync would do for it. So
yeah, agreed. So on the Zcashd side, we've made, let's see, there was a bug that was causing, I think, an assertion failure that could occur sometimes when Zcashd was shut down and then restarted. It would, if this happened, then it would always happen on restart at the same point. And that bug is fixed. Yeah, that was to do with the resync of the Orchard wallet. We have also made some changes to reduce memory usage. So theoretically, it can save up to 2.3 gigabytes on the virtual memory usage. It probably saves less than that if you consider the sort of the working set size of the process, which is a little bit difficult because that depends on usage, but it still should be a significant help.
Is that the one we're flushing the block headers to disk?
Yes, so we're actually flushing them to the level DB database, the block index database. Yes, instead of storing them in memory.
Right.
And there are some transaction builder changes for Zcashd to prepare for ZIP 317. And apart from that, we're also continuing to work on recursion for Halo 2, although Yingtong is off at the moment, so that's slightly paused.
Cool, thanks.
Right, have I missed anything?
No, I think that covers everything the last couple of weeks. Any questions about any of that? This was really this really was not the research and implementation status update per se.
It's right here.
I don't think there's any. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
There's the slide.
Oh, great.
Yeah. This.
Yeah, because because I know that
I've seen the updates to like ZK proofs and a couple of those other Rust crates and the ETA on the SDK releases. Just curious.
They are going through. I think the iOS one is ahead of Android. Paco or Carter would be able to speak to that. I don't know if they're on the call. I can't see who's here in this webinar format.
I think
speaking of ZK proofs, I was on in a workshop at the zkproof.org, the 5th conference, and we're working on standardizing Plonk or Plonkish systems, including Halo 2.
I was meant to be on that, but yeah, turns out trying to fly from the other side of the world is a bit tricky last minute.
And I noticed that no one at the conference was wearing masks, so I'm clinically vulnerable, and it would not have been a good idea for me to attend anyway.
But fortunately, we were able to get some people there, and actually, I think Ying Tong is there as well. So she's been holding the fort there for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's useful because that I think the main thing that we're trying to do there is come to some sort of like agreements on what specifications would look like for and what specifications would be for stuff like the Plonk style architectures and things. The nice thing about that is that it both sort of will make like the Halo 2 stack more interoperable with potentially with the rest of the ecosystem as people sort of come to consensus on that. And in addition, the nice thing about that is we can potentially upgrade or migrate the Orchard circuit to, if there are changes that require divergences or things, we could do an upgrade to Orchard that just changes the circuit to be one that's more compatible if we, if there is a benefit to that, because we don't need to run, it's no longer a trusted setup kind of thing. It becomes very easy to just like, upgrade the version of the proofs that we're using for that. So we can, there's ability for us to sort of like tweak that as we need to if it becomes useful to gain interoperability with other parts of the system, like someone doing GPU proving or something or whatever.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and also to share security analysis with other projects.
Yeah. Is there any sort of formal notions of the oh God, the word just went out of my brain. Is there any sort of formal notions of like what these like what Plonkish style arithmetization versus say God, what was the previous one? I can't remember the name.
R1CS.
Yes. Is there any notion of like a formalization of what those different types of arithmetization give you, or is that the wrong framing to ask?
So the definitions of sort of soundness, completeness, zero knowledge, and so on, they're all the same.
Right.
But the statement that you are trying to prove, so the general statement rather than the circuit specific one, that is precisely one of the things that we're trying to formalize.
Got it. Neat. Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to keep up with that. That's I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ian, I think we're done with that update.
Yeah, so we'll just bring it out to open discussion and see if there's any questions or comments from anyone in the audience right now.
Let's see. I asked a question. There is no chat, or I don't see any chat. It's been disabled.
Yeah, I see one here, that we discussed on earlier regarding just the format of the call. Was that the question you were speaking to?
Yeah, I was just trying to be like, I don't know how to communicate.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Yeah. So I got the heads up that I was running this week, and I've never like managed one of these. So when I got into it, I thought that was the format, and then I like started quickly clicking buttons, and I realized that this probably wasn't going to work. So that's on me, and I apologize. It's just a quick turnaround from Stephen leaving.
Hey, that's okay.
Yeah, apologize for that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we seem to have adapted pretty well.
Yeah.
You can't see our beautiful faces, but apart from that.
Awesome. Well, if there's no...
I have a very important thing to bring up. The Frost threshold Schnorr signature specification at the IRTF is now in last call You have about 2 more weeks if you are a fan of really nice threshold signatures, specifications, the kind that we're writing up to use in Zcash for your spend auth signatures, so that you can have T out of N signers doing a nice Schnorr signature for you. That is in last call. If you're a fan, go to the CFRG, the Crypto Forum Research Group mailing list, and send an email that says, I like this document, I think it is good, and it should be adopted.
Or not, as the case may be.
Right. But I think it's good as one of the co-authors.
who doesn't love nitpicking specification problems in IETF documents?
Please.
Specifically nitpicking them in last call.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. We love the feedback. We love, good review of our stuff. But if you think it is good enough to adopt, this is version 11. This is the one that's in the last call. Drop a line and give us your feedback on the CFRG mailing list. That'll help. We need your vote, as it were. I said that to somebody and they were like, they're doing voting now? I'm like, no, it's not literally voting, but you have to show up and say, I like this thing as a vote of confidence. If you did that, we would all be very happy. Yay.
And then because that will also make it far more likely that we can then persuade people to implement it in hardware and places or whatever to make it far more likely that we can actually use it.
Yes. There are, I think, 5 cipher suites defined in that IE or IR, whatever, TF document. Those are not the curves that are used in Zcash, but they are, you've got your ED 25519, you've got your SEC P256K1 and P256. These are all Schnorr signatures, just to highlight. You might hear using those curves for EC DSA signatures. These are being used for like ED DSA signatures. These are Schnorr signatures. They're not the same thing. But of course, Ristretto. So our primary cipher suite is Ristretto, which is the prime order group construction over the same curve that Edwards 25519 is. So you've got some options. You've also got ED 448, which I think is the only one we haven't implemented ourselves yet, because there is no handy dandy implementation of ED 448 in Rust. Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Why not include the pasta curves in the draft?
Because there are no documents in like the IETF and
okay, right. So it has to be an IRTF specified curve. Okay, that's very
pretty much. But for our zip, which is in draft, we don't have it submitted to the zips repository yet, but we've had a construction of how do you do the re-randomization that you need to do re-randomized at DSA signatures for or whatever. Red DSA signatures, even though they're not over ED anymore for Zcash, we do define the jub curve and the pasta curve, the Pallas curve, specifically for using it for Zcash, and they're just in a zip instead of in a IETF document.
Yeah, the red always stood for communism anyway, not re-randomizable EDSA. Don't tell anyone that Easter egg is there.
That's cool.
DC is on a recorded call.
If anyone is interested, we, the foundation, we have been keeping up with the spec with a full set of Rust implementations for all the cipher suites except for that ED 448 one. We also have the one we did first was Red Jub, and I think we already have Red Pallas somewhere else, but I don't remember if we have to update them to use our fully generic Frost core library, which makes it really easy for anyone to implement their own favorite new cipher suite in just like 300 lines of Rust code. If you already have an elliptic curve implementation you like, and if you already have, or any prime order group actually, and you already have a hash function that you like that would fit in the security requirements for those cipher suites, you can like Conrado, who's been working on this with us, just spits out a new implementation of Frost, a new Cypher suite, like in a day. And he's just sort of like, do you have any more of these that you need me to do? So if you want to play with Frost, we have a Rust generic implementation for you that's fully up to date with the spec that's under last call. And yeah, you can ask us questions on the internet or on the mailing list. So, hey.
Thumbs up.
And I think that's all I have. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think. Does anyone else from the audience have any comments, questions around any of the content that was covered today? We've got one right here. Did someone mention GPU proving? Is that being used right now?
No, not currently. I mentioned that as an example of like potentially things that could be interoperable. But on that front, there has been work towards this that Filecoin and developers have been doing, I believe. There's an EC GPU crate that they've been working on, and there was actually a PR to pull that into some of the Rust stacks. And so yeah, like our Zcash stack does not use it at the moment, but it is something that we want to enable. And like the work for that is not something that is on our plate, but it is something that that we're aware of and are keeping track of, and at some point will hopefully feed into the stack.
Yeah, at some point there will be some integration work on our plate.
Yeah,
but we're not doing the bulk of the work.
Awesome. Thank you both for the answer there. Any other questions from the audience? Awesome. Well, I guess that wraps it up for today. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties and the scheduling issues that we had. That's on me, and I'll make sure for the next call that all of that gets sorted out. I think Nate will be back hosting these, I believe, for the next one. If not, it might be myself or someone from the community if someone mentions that they want to take this on. This will be posted on YouTube if you want to have another run at listening to all the content that was shared today. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or in Discord within the Zcash R&D Discord at Janus. Thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your evenings.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Ian.
Bye.